Hi all, it's Davey and Fuchsia. So when I was playing with the Halfling Rogue, I noticed that there's a library in Lost Hope. So I decided why not just try to look into this library and try and read some of the lore that I've left behind I didn't know about. I've turned off the sound for this episode just so, because Lost Hope is lots of sound. I'm in Lost Hope and I don't want it being overarching a lot. So here's just some of the lore that we've got in here. Got some analysis. We got a couple stuff in here. We got the Diaries of King Tok'nur the Brave. I think what we're going to do is we're going to, for now, let's look at these three things here just to get these out of the way. These Lore Masters Grey Knots that announce the races, introduction. So I set out here to give a full and complete analysis of all the intelligent races in Maj'Eyal. This is an ambitious project to say the least, but is put together from a great many years' labor, including travels across all the kingdoms and direct meetings with many of the highest rulers and most learned sages. I have drawn my findings with common knowledge, exclusive interviews, studies of many thousands of pages of texts and histories, some going back dozens of centuries. I myself am a higher human, in the employ of the court of King Tolk the Fair, but I have done my best to write all accounts from a purely neutral standpoint. I leave it to my peers to judge my success. Index. Chapter 1. Humans. Chapter 2. Halflings. Chapter 3. Dwarves. Chapter 4. Shaloran. Chapter 5. Valoran. Chapter 6. Noloran. Extinct. Chapter 7. Orcs. Extinct. Chapter 8. Shadowtool Extinct. Chapter 9. Monstrous Races. And Chapter 10. Dragons. So there's that. And we got here the humans and the halflings. I don't think I've read these yet. I have read the Valorans and I think the Lorans and I think maybe orcs. But these two are here. We'll get these first, the humans. So, Chapter 1, Humans. I begin my writings with the study of humans, currently the most populous of the races of Maj'Eyal. The greatest kingdom in number are by far the Kornax, but mention should also be made of the Shelter and Mardrop kingdoms and the higher Bloodline. The biggest human population center is around the Citadel of Lost Hope, though many other settlements exist across all corners of Maj'Eyal. Kornax are normally around 5 feet 9 inches, with generally dark hair, brown eyes, and ruddy features. Most Kornax take up roles as tradesmen, farmers, or other manual labor jobs. It is a sad fact that the majority of bandit groups tend to be dominated by Kornax. Kornak families tend to be large, and since the Age of Dust their population has expanded rapidly, especially in the farming lands in the west and around Lost Hope in the south. Sheltor are generally 5'11", with dark skin, hair, and eyes. They originate from the southeast of Maj'Eyal, and are few in number since the Chasm tore much of their land into the sea. Their affinity with nature is renowned, and they are often found employed as healers, infusions, crafters, or wormic huntsmen. Mardruk humans are all but extinct after the spell hunt and the plagues during the Age of Dusk. They were known to be powerful spellcasters and were prime targets for the spell hunters. However, some trace of them can be still found, as their fiery hair and freckled skin often can appear in a distant descent. A few are rumored to be still possess citadels and towers in remote locations. Hires are on average 6'0", with fair hair and skin in blue or gray eyes. The majority of scholarly roles are taken up by hires, and they tend to fill most of the noble classes. Some say this is due to discrimination and elitism, though these may simply be jealous sentiments. There are also rumors that superior intellects of hires are due to arcane experiments instigated by ancient conclave during the Age of Allure, but I have found no records to support this idea, and most consider it to be baseless. The higher bloodline is renowned as a mark of excellence, and mixing of lower blood is strongly frowned upon. All human kingdoms were united by the kingdom of Tok'nur the Brave in the Age of Pyre, and remain under the rule of his son, King Tolk the Fair. A full discussion of the long human history would require a far more detailed document. And then there's halflings. There are two main kingdoms of halflings, the Eldora and the Nagrol, though both mix often. All halflings are just under 4 foot tall and are generally known for their large feet and curly hair. Excuse me. Eldora are usually fair-haired and blue-eyed. Nagrol tend to be darker in hair and complexion with hazel eyes and oft slightly shorter than their cousins. Halflings are known for their intelligence and quick wit, but also their arrogance in dealing with other races, something they do not deny, for they say is well deserved. Halflings used to be the most dominant race in Maj'Eyal, with control of many strategic structural ruins and rule over great swaths of the land. The recorded wars between humans and halflings are numerous, and the halflings were most often victors. However, the Age of Pyre brought them great ruin, for the orcs seemed to target them more fiercely than their races, and many of their communities were wiped out. This has forced them to rely on trade with other races in modern times, especially humans. The Eldorors used to have a kingdom to the north in the continent, but most of it was destroyed during the wars of the orcs, and not much has been rebuilt. However, they still have some agricultural settlements such as Durf, albeit shared with other races. The Eldor are known for their great healers and farmers, and their slingers are considered the best in all of the lands. The Nagrolls once had many strong fortifications in the south of Maj'Eyal, but though they suffered less than the Eldoril in the Age of Pyre, they still lost great numbers, and much of their centers of population dwindled. The rise of Last Hope has accelerated the process as many communities are subsumed in the city's subsurge. Nagrolls are known as great jewelers, alchemists, and rune crafters, and possess some of the best tactical minds in all of the races. Many generals and military advisors are employed from the kingdom. The most famous of all halflings is Queen Merveve, most famed for her savings of King Torkner in the Last Hope from the siege of orcs. Mystery still surrounds how she managed to bypass the winter's icy flow with her army to reach the Sill in time to rescue Torknor. Some have hypothesized that she enlisted the aid of sorcerers, but none of her troops were talk about the journey afterwards. She wed King Torkner in the second year of age of his ascendancy, and gave birth to the first known mixed-race child, Tokloth the Fair. Alright, so that's just, some of the diaries of the analysis of the races. Let's just go into this other stuff down here. Let's try the Oceans of the Yal. This one's 18 gold, so it's a little bit expensive, but I got enough gold for all this stuff. The Oceans of the Yal. The Oceans of the Yal represent a frontier which we have been powerless to break. In spite of advanced craft and skill and even more forbidden areas of magic, there are natural barriers that we cannot overcome. Long-range seafaring has become seen unprofitable and fruitless endeavor. The last great ship to be built was the Vanguard over 1,000 years ago, which disappeared over the eastern horizon and was never seen again. Yet we know the Charter once traveled the whole globe. That record exists from our younger days of our continents of sailing, routes that go right around the whole of Yal. How it stirs my heart to think of the unexplored lands that lie beyond our stormy coasts. Alas, records from the time of Spellblaze and the Chasms showed that the old routes can no longer be traversed. A reshaping of the currents and an increase in storms and a great abundance of dangerous sea creatures have all locked us into the kind of Maj'Eyal. Yet my desire for knowledge is not sated. I spoke some time ago with the old fisherman, a half-from sea dog with crusty beard, hideous scars, and a foul stench of stale ale all about him. In between the wretched-smelling breath from his toothless mouth, he told me about valuable information. I transcribed it the best I can here. Nay, Ya'll not get long outbound because there. Then doth y'all run into ice floes, miles wide stretches out close in all ya crust y'all haul from neath. Out west be feel the storms o' cyclones, hurricanes, that'll swallow go near, and out east are forest nagas and sea dragons, switching currents and ocean rifts, storms of hate like near seen of worst nightmares. As for south, well, that's best spot for fishing and like. We got some good patches there, but venture too far you'll need some magic barrier or whatnot. Ship hate against wall or air. Go too fast and you space your prow apart. And outbound it, some cloud of darkness lies on the horizon. We stay clear of that, I tell yez. It's a remarkable report, and one I'm minded to believe, in spite of a notorious and reliable seafarer's tale. South was once the continent of Tariel, said to be the desert-smothered land full of wild energies. What fate has followed it from our access now is hard to say, but my curiosity is sorely piqued, and I shall endeavor to charter a ship to investigate the strange barrier to the south. Likely the lesser races that crew these vessels would balk at such an enterprise, but I'm sure that with the leadership and influence of higher, like myself, I can persuade them to have a little more backbone. Lord Esmond Asmere. Footnote: after this paper was published, Lord Esmond was found dead and stripped of all valuables in one of the ports of Last Hope. So he died. Alright, let's go to Pale King Part 1. And this one looks to be a little bit longer. A study into Southpar's most usual ruler. Chances are you haven't heard of Southpar. And why would you have? It was not but a teeny provincial island kingdom off the coast of Tariel that existed within the age of the lurid dusk. By all accounts, the Southpar was a pleasant place to live, temperate climate, healthy trade relations with mainland human kingdoms, and by great luck, the island upon which kingdom sat held great deposits of much valued metal strelite. Despite this good fortune, though, Southpar was doomed to mediocrity. Why? The actions of the ruler. By all accounts, a bumbling octogenarian doctorate, his name lost to the mist of time, his moly monarch mismanaged Southpar almost to its demise. The dwarves of the Iron Throne have heard of Australia beneath the island, manipulating the king into mining it and selling it to them for a fraction of its true worth. Also, despite Southpar's decidedly puny military power, the king saw fit to send whatever troops he could muster to aid mainland human kingdoms in their great and many wars against the Halflings, who up to this point had barely registered Southpar's existence. Not only were the undertrained, ill-equipped troops crushed like vermin before the superior Halfling forces, but also these foolhardy attacks succeeded in attracting the Halfling's attention to the secluded island. Almost immediately the raids began. From what records remained, the king was mystified to the decline of his nation, believing to the end that every action he took had been the right one. He passed away soon after a Halfling race began. Whether it was suicide, assassination, or simply old age is unknown. The king never married and had no children. The only remaining member of the family became a distant cousin, a young married named Drake. And so it was Drake ascended to the throne and Southpar entered a golden age. Drake and the Halfling Horde. To the newly crowned Drake, the most obvious immediate threat to Southpar was the growing raids and swords being held by the Halflings. To this end, he ordered a complete and total reconstruction of Southpar's military, turning them from a ragtag bunch of militia into a small yet devastating efficient engine of war. Drake knew that the only advantage his forces held over the Halflings was their knowledge of the island, and so bade them to travel stealthily, carry small armor defeating strategic knives rather than spears and swords, and only engage with the Halflings strictly on their own terms. Southpar's newly assembled army of rogues was a success. Although the Halflings were great in number, strike after surgical strike from Drake's army weighed heavily on their morale, and finally, grumpily declaring Southpar was not worth Bardar, the Halfling forces withdrew. Southpar celebrated its peace and its newly formed military might, but for Drake the celebration was short-lived. The Stralite he had used to craft the army of rogues' knives and armor was Stralite that wasn't going into the dwarves' pockets, and they were far from happy. Drake formulated a plan. By the time he was through, the dwarves would be even further from happy. Drake and the Stralite stratagem. The dwarves have always been a secret race. Even now, only a select few knew the location of their Iron Council, and in the days of Southpar, there were even still those who considered dwarves nothing but myth. Being a monarch in possession of large amounts of Stralite can open even more concealed doors, however. Drake had requested an audience with the Iron Council, and the dwarves, expecting said audience and a humble apology and promise of fair Stralite to the gold they were paying, readily accepted. What they got in reality was quite different. Gone was the ineffectual king of Southpar's past, and now the dwarves found themselves facing a young, hard-eyed human who was demanding that the amount of gold that dwarves were paying for Southpar's Stralite be increased 20-fold. To say the dwarves scoffed at this would have been an understatement. Open, derisive laughter hits near the mark. Despite Southpar's recent repulsion to the Halflings, the dwarves of the Iron Throne saw no problem in taking Southpar's Stralite by force. In its heart, Drake knew they could accomplish this, and it was to this end that they had brought the small pouch around his neck to the council. Drake held a small drakeskin pouch high, opened it, and emptied its contents onto the floor. Stralite ground to dust, muddled with dirt and base metals, made unstable and worthless. The dwarves and councils gasped in horror at this waste. One, if rumors are to be believed, even fainting on the spot. Drake went on to say, if his demands were not met, the entirety of the Stralite beneath his island would meet the same fate as a Stralite cast upon a chamber's floor. By the time Drake left the Iron Council, the dwarves had agreed to pay 3 times the previous amount. So it's Smart King. Let's see what happened. Drake and the Conclave of Mages. With its borders unsailed and its coffers rapidly filling with dwarven gold, many believed that the fortune of Southpar could not increase any further. Drake, however, had one last task to accomplish in regard to the Conclave. For a long time, a small number of Conclave mages had made a home in Southpar. The remote location and the doddering nature of the old king meant they could perform experiments and practice magic that would have been disallowed on the mainland. Being reclusive by nature, only a few of their group had heard of the rise of the new king, and none of them cared much. Drake's royal guards, breaking down the doors of the study, followed the king himself, gave cause to care. Drake had for them an ultimatum. This is the kingdom of Southpar, my kingdom, and so everything within her borders must be within my control. This applies to her people, her land, her resources, and now her magic. I shall allow you to remain here in Southpar on one condition. You become members of my royal court, obey my commands, and use your magic for the betterment of the kingdom. When unneeded, you may tend to the Conclave matters as you will, but your greatest loyalty to be with me. Do you accept? The Conclave mage's response? Laughter. But this laughter was not so mocking laughter of the dwarves, but laughter of disbelief. As recorded, Mage's response went as, King Drake! You need have bothered us with such a stern ultimatum. A simple request would have sufficed. True, in the past we may have chosen to reside here for a simple seclusion, but it's hard to ignore Southpar's rising star. This kingdom's glory shall continue to grow, and we want to be a part of it. We accept. Freedom from halfling attacks, dwarven fortunes, and now the magic of conclave blessed Southpar. What common people thought could possibly happen next? Mere weeks after the conclave joined the royal court, Drake fell ill and died. Drake and the empty throne. Drake was dead, and Southpar people were struck with depression and outright horror. Their king, who had fast on his way to making their kingdom one of the greatest in Maj'Eyal, was no more. The throne lay empty. Not a single soul vied for the now vacant position of king. As far as Southpar's citizens were concerned, it was Drake's throne, no one else's. The Norman tales like this would be that the kingdom slowly managed to get back on its feet, recover from its loss of their king, and finally return to a state of resembling normalcy. Not so for Southpar. Drake's demise had left a wound that was not healing, and it was clear that something had to be done. One of the men closest to Drake in his life, his chancellor, left abruptly on a mysterious errand, hoping that the kingdom would not crumble before his return. After a period of some months, he did return, and his first port of call, the study of conclave mages. He held in his hand a tome, bound in skin and marked with blood-red runes. Its subject matter was obviously necromancy. The chancellor had but one command for our mages: bring him back. Here, sadly, definitive facts on Southpar and Drake's fate vanished. Some say that Drake's rebirth was a resounding success, and Southpar's star continued to rise as the now skeletal Drake retook the throne, the gaze from his exposed skull and changed from his mortal visage. Others believe that the madness that Grasdale's return from the grave took him, and with his new powers that the conclave had blessed him, they began to reign a terror that drowned Southpar in blood. The only fact that can be known for certain was a new name his subjects gave him in his death: Pale King Drake, the Pale King, or simply Pale Drake. I leave you with a copy of one of the last pieces of Southpar's history, a partially destroyed scrap of parchment supposedly written moments before the chasm and Southpar's destruction falling beneath the waves along with the rest of Maj'Eyal. Time grows, Persephone on boat, found, binding was success. Now to sea, to the dreadful, O noble king, wrought in my new do as you will. Probably something about dreadful there. So, that's at least all that out of the way. That's a good amount of history to be talking about. I'll see what this is all about later in the next episode, but for now we'll say it's enough for this episode. And I'll just get back to you in the next episode for it. And so begins the next episode. Let's see what this is all about. The Diaries of King Turknar the Brave. The Diaries of King Turknar the Brave, and this is going to be really quick. The Orcish tribe have routed us. We have retreated to some Mardrop ruins and secured ourselves amongst the fortifications. I have just shy of 2,000 men under my banner, some of the best warriors I have ever served with, but we are simply no match for the numbers we face. Counting them is difficult, but we have put a minimum estimate of 10,000. The tribe has camped a league away. They seem to be waiting for reinforcements. This does not bode well. I have sent messenger crows to all the kingdoms I can, but hope they send aid in time. Chapter 2. 25th of Haze, year of Pyre, 710. 5 men tried to deserting last night. Today I had them flogged in front of all the others. I have given warning that any future deserters shall be hanged. These are measures I do not like to take, but harsh times call for harsher discipline. Our supplies are holding steady for now, but I fear they may not last. I received word that it will take at least 50 days to muster a force that can save us. Alas, food may well be our least of our worries, for the orcs have begun to attack our strongholds. Thankfully, we have had time to reinforce the existing structures. Indeed, little work was needed, for the foundations of the place are strong. My lore master tells me it was abandoned following the Chrism Pox, but was once the capital of Mardrop. The men have taken a fondness to the place and have named it Last Hope. Though I've normally discouraged such romantic notions, I cannot help feel the same. These stone walls give strength to my heart. I feel we can fight through this. Their attack has begun again. They seem to have maces now. Ah, it will be a long night. Number 3. Rations low, men demoralized. Winter haze wind is making conditions unbearable. The fortress is holding, but each night they pick off some of our troops. It is but a matter of time before we no longer have the strength to resist. I can hear their blasted trumpets again, accursed swine. We have no rest nor sleep, nor not the slightest sojourn without their braying, whiling, jeering, taunting, insufferable cantations. It is driving me from my wits, but I must remain strong. I must put on a brave face for my men. They rely on me, and though the burden feels close to crushing me, I must bear with the dignity of king. It is getting dark again. Who will die this night? I am so afraid, but I can't show it. Chapter 4. Oh, happy days, joyous retributions, from the jaws of defeat we are saved. And never before have I felt such elation. Last night, at dusk, approached the Orcish army began to prepare a major attack. My men were ready, for I had determined that they were to have our lives they would pay for them thrice over. But as the sun waned in the western sky, I saw what looked like rain of gold falling amongst the Orcish troops, and suddenly they were in disarray. Another flurry came, and I saw that it was not gold, but bolts of steel reflecting the setting of the sun. The halflings, my scouts shouted. And lo, I saw then indeed a large army of halflings coming upon the orcs' flank. The Orcish army suddenly forgot all about us, turning upon their new enemy. But foolish is any who ignores the wrath of a caged lion which sees chance for vengeance. I led my men immediately into battle, taking the enemy swiftly from the rear and throwing their organization into madness. When the halfling army came upon their flank, it was a massacre, and we drove them mercilessly toward the Sovereign Lake. There upon the shores we bested them in the last number, and their blood stained the water a horrific black. Our victory sealed, I immediately met with the halfling leader. I found it to be no less than the Princess Maj'Eyal. Truly words cannot express my joy, and I saw her face flush red in the last embers of the setting sun. I almost felt, no, I should not think such things. Chapter 5. We have solidified the defense of Last Hope and received more troops from all the other kingdoms. Our tactical positions near the sea is proving an excellent base for further attacks on the orcs. I hope to expand our facilities here much further. I am drawing up an alliance now with the other leaders, for only together can we hope to beat this terrible threat to all our kingdoms. Mervana has been key to the discussions and the plans. She is a tactical genius, and I am constantly amazed by her wealth of knowledge and skills. There is an old woman that accompanies her, though, with long fiery hair and a silken robe. Linali is her name. One of my men swears he saw her riding into battle into a blaze of flames, burning all the orcs before her. The idea of a spellweaver in our midst is unsettling, but Mervana says I can trust her. And if Mervana says so, then I must believe her. She is a remarkable force for good, Mervana, popular with all the troops. I feel my normal iron rule smoothed by her presence. Too long have I led a cold life as soldier alone. Ah, the beating of my heart cannot be silenced. I must speak to Mervana and tell her how I feel. I only hope she shares some inkling of my emotion. In the last chapter. Why is it only in times of darkness I turn to my journal? Today has been the darkest day in over 2 years, but it could have been darker still. Mervana's convoy was attacked by a rogue band of orcs. Though the brutes were repelled, she was hurt in the conflict. And her labor brought on early. She lay before the halls of death for many hours. It is only thanks to the skill of our people's healers that she and the baby survived. The baby, our baby. My son! Mervana is still recovering, but the boy seems hale as any freshly born child. But still I worry. How I wish that he were born in a more perfect world. How I worry for my wife and child in this age of suffering. I want to make a new age for them, free from such threats as almost took away the woman I love. I want to give my son the chance to reign in an era of peace. Too long have we constantly repelling the orcish rage and pushing back their small tribes. The last hope is now Gleam City and a focal point for all armies of the West. Now is the time for us to drive forward and root out every orcish colony in the continent. I will not rest until Maj'Eyal is free from their vile influence, till every accursed brood is burned to ashes and every pig-scound orc cast upon existence. I shall end their terrible age of power and usher in a new age of ascendancy. This I do solemnly swear. So I'm going to guess that Linali helped Mervana get over and save the people of Last Hope. That's it for the lore. I'm probably going to combine this with the other video, just because it's, so short. This character is pretty much just to do that. I was testing the Reaver class, and they're kind of fun. But I heard a suggestion that I should try using a higher Reaver as choice for hire. So I'm probably going to do that, and we're just going to do that and delete this character for now. Not sure how I'll play the Reaver, but we'll see when I get there. I will tell you right now that the next character I'll be playing will be probably a Cornic Cursed. But you'll see that when it comes out. And hope you've enjoyed the lore for now.